Thank you so much. Thank you very much. How many of y'all know what grits are? Quick show of hands. That's most of the room. I was up in Vancouver not long ago. The Life Underwriters Association up in Kelowna, British Columbia invited me up there to speak. And our good friend Paul Lazan invited me up there. And as I was up there to speak, I did what I always do, ordered my grits. And the lady looked at me like I didn't have all the dots on my dice. I said, "Madam, if you don't have any grits, you just fetch me out a bowl of hot water." I explained fetch to her, too. I said, you fetch me a bowl of hot water, and I'll mix up my own. Well, she brought out that, because I always carry a little spare packet of grits in my pocket, just in case, you know. But she brought out that bowl of hot water, and she set it down in front of me. I tore my grits open. I poured them in. I was stirring them up. She asked me a very interesting question, Joe. She said, "Are grits tough to grow?" Now, gang, I'm quick, but even that one threw me. But I recovered very nicely. I said, "No, ma'am, but they held a pick." All right. The title of my presentation today, and it's going to be a fast-moving presentation, so I want you to stay with me. The title of my presentation today, for the first session, if you will, is "The Secret of Success in Selling is a Set of Skills." Now, quick show of hands. How many of you are members of the Lucky Club? How many of you were born with all the information you're ever going to need, all the good looks, all the money, all the talent? You just kind of go to work for the fun of it. Let's see a quick show of hands. One liar over here, and there's any others in the group. Well, see, does it look like Mikey was a member of this group? Now, here I am at birth. Folks, it's been a 5-minute walk around me ever since I was born. I go in and get my shoes shined. The wife tells me, she said, "You got to take your guy's word for it, don't you?" See, I'm well insured. Joe and them will tell you I'm well insured. I'm my best client. I don't have any problems that death ain't going to clear up. She's concerned that I'm going to die. That's the whole problem. I told her, "You got 2 responsibilities. Keep your head down at the funeral and try to look sad." It's tough feeling bad, folks, knowing you coming into the chips in 3 weeks. So it's about a 5-minute one. Here, the good Monsignor keeps the silver spoon. Didn't keep it there either. Here I am with my 10 brothers and sisters. Folks, I didn't sleep alone till I got married. What I'm trying to say to you is I was not a member of this elite group either, is what I'm trying to say. Here I'm on my first sales call. Check out those white walls. Huh? They're something, aren't they? So it's time for me to suit up. I'm starting, because I want to share some ideas with you today that are not only going to change your life, but I hope will help to double your income. Now, I don't say that in a way that is braggacious. I hope I can give you some things that are going to make you a better person at what you do in this business. And I want to share ideas from this man. He was my grandfather. His name was Eli Mack. Now, I'm out of the Deep South. I'm of Lebanese descent. Y'all don't get mad at me. We never win any wars because we always stop and pick up the lumber when they blow up the bridges, you know, so that we can resell it, you know. In the Deep South, you're one of 3 things. You're a white man, you're a black man, or you're a Jew. Now, we were too dark to fit in the light category and too light to fit in the dark category, so they called us Jews. Now, don't you Greeks laugh. Y'all are right in there with it. Vince, you're a Jew. You're right in there with it. Till the day this man died, he was affectionately known as Jew Mack. Now, he's of Lebanese descent, Catholic by faith. Gang, how you get a Jew out of that, I'll never know. But in the Deep South, you're one of those 3 things. He was mayor of the town of Lexington, South Carolina for 12 years before they found out he's an illegal alien. He had to go down and sign up and become an American citizen. But he shared a lot of ideas with me, and one of those ideas was, don't trust your memory, learn to write things down. I'll be moving so quickly today, you won't have time to write them down, so I took notes for you. That's nice of me, wasn't it? Nice looking notes, too. Typeset, handout, got artwork, pictures in there. I like pictures from down south. You know, you got to have pictures down. Anyway, we've got some nice handouts for you. I even suggest that people take notes in church. Every now and then, our priest will come up with something worth writing down. You want to shake your priest or your pastor up? Start taking notes next week. Run them crazy. They'd be sitting up there and they figure nobody's paying attention to them. Here's some circle out there sitting there taking notes. It goes off the deep end. They don't know how to handle it. So we took the notes for you. One of the things my grandfather shared with me years ago, he used to call me his hayati, which is an Arabic word which roughly translated means the breath of my life. Isn't that a beautiful expression? And I called him my jiddi, which is an Arabic word for grandfather. He used to say to me, Hayati, God blesses the man who gives advice, but God blesses 1,000 times more the man or the woman who takes the advice and uses it. So today I want to share advice with you that's been shared with me over the years from that great man and from other great people like the people who are in this room here today. Advice that I found systems and ways of collecting. I've been taking notes since I was 11 years old. My granddaddy started me on these things years ago. Some of you saw me taking notes at this conference. This is a journal, a little blank book, and I take notes, collect ideas. Now, next week I will quote Ken Young of Prudential. He said some wonderful things here today. 2 weeks from now, I'll say, as a friend of mine once said, In a month, I'll say, as I've always said, you know. But take notes, get ideas, save these ideas. Your memory's just not good enough, so I challenge you to take notes. I want to talk today about several keys to success in this business, if you will. The first key I want to talk about is change. You know something, the trouble with the future, folks, is that it ain't what it used to be. Wouldn't it be nice if we could solve today's problems with yesterday's solutions? Wouldn't it be nice if we could solve all of our problems and use yesterday's formulas to do it? I want you to get on your hands and knees tonight and thank your Maker that it's not that way. Because if it were that way, we could put a bow tie on a monkey and let him do it. We wouldn't need you to do this proud and honorable job that you're called on to do. So the trouble with the future is that it ain't what it used to be. I want to talk today about leadership skills for tomorrow, because therein lies the key. We've been talking about excellence at this conference. We'll talk more about that as I move through this program, but I want to talk about leadership skills. Another thing I'll talk about is knowledge. It's absolutely imperative that we come together at meetings like this. They tell a time about the story, two guys were out back chopping wood. At the end of the day, one guy had a bigger pile of wood than the other guy couldn't understand. He worked twice as long, twice as hard, had half the stack of wood. He said, I don't understand. He said, yes, you did work twice as long. I noticed that, and your pile of wood is half the stack. He said, yeah, I don't understand. How did you manage to get through this full day? You outworked yourself. How did you manage for that to happen, and yet your stack of wood is half the size of mine? I'll tell you how you managed it. When I took my breaks, when I took my nice long leisurely lunch, I also took the time to sharpen my axe. That's why meetings like this are critical. Do you realize that less than 3% of the people in your business take the time out of it to come to do what you're doing here this week to keep the axe sharpened? It's absolutely critical. Are you the vulture or are you the missionary? Are you trying to solve today's problems with yesterday's solutions? Are you driving through life with your emergency brake on? Some of us are putting limits on ourselves. We'll talk about those limits today. You ought to be reading at least 2 books a week, a newspaper a day, and 2 other publications a week if you just want to keep up. Now some of you saying, Mike, old redneck like you, I can tell you don't read no 2 books a week. Tell that by the way you talk. I really don't read 2 books a week, but I scan 4 books a week. And I have a bad habit. I buy my books, because when I see something in a book I like, I tear out the pages. Well, that's where I collect data. And then I stick them in these little file folders, and the file folders got the name on there, what it stands for. That's my way of collecting information. I don't care what system you use, but find a system. Have you taken the time to read the 10 latest books about the business of which you are a part? Are you taking time to keep up? Therein lies the key, my friends. See, you can't have rabbit stew till you catch the rabbit. You can't convey information you ain't got. How are your clients going to depend on your advice if you don't have the advice to share with them? How'd you like to be operated on by a surgeon who hadn't been to school in 10 years? Let's see, flip him over, see if the zipper's on the back. Marge, did you sharpen the knives this morning? I want somebody working with a sharp knife, folks, and a sharp mind. I don't want him wondering which end to use. I don't want him leaving anything in there. And the last thing you want to hear when you're going through your vasectomy is, oops. You don't want to hear oops. You don't want to hear oops when you're going through any kind of an operation with a surgeon. See, if you read only 1 book per month, you'll be in the upper 10% of the intellectual elite in the world. 1 book a month. That's all it takes. You got to keep up, folks. See, if you fail in school, as Jiddy put it to me years ago, it ain't your teacher who fails you. She just delivers the bad news. The boss fires you next week, and it ain't the boss who fired you. He's just giving you your latest performance rating is what he's doing. We got to keep up, folks, and the only way to keep up is to keep the mind sharp. Until the mind is moved, the carcass is going to stay in park. It's just that simple. See, some of us are born in the AD with a BC mentality. We're trying to solve today's problems with yesterday's solutions, and that is not going to work, folks. It won't work. See, it isn't what we know, and they talked about this. Gary Kinder talked about this yesterday. It isn't what we know, but what we do with what we know that counts. It's the action. Knowledge without action is nothing. You got to have the action. So you got to take these ideas back and use them. Are you listening? Are you developing good listening skills so that you can understand what your clients are talking about? Another key area. See, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. He meant for us to do twice as much listening as talking. Some of us got the formula backwards. We're doing twice as much talking as listening. Let's talk about this thing of listening. You don't realize the word listen contains the same letters as the word silent? Folks, better listeners will do better work. When you listen, you understand what the other person's problems are. When you close your mouth, it helps to open your mind. It helps to unclutter your thinking process. Listen to the other guy until you've had a chance to walk in his shoes or in her shoes. You don't know what their problems are. You don't know whether the wife's running around on the husband or the kids are on dope. You don't know what their problems are, so listen to them, because you see, effective communication is getting people to think and act favorably toward you and toward your circumstances. That's what communication's all about. That's what selling is all about. in the communication process, is to get people to think favorably toward you and your circumstances. See, it's a luxury to be understood. It's not something it's automatic. It's not a gimme. It's something that you have to work hard at. Language sets the tone for our society. Do you realize that we rule men with words? Napoleon put it that way. We rule entire societies with words. Jim Jones ruled an entire society with words. Talked 1,200 people into deeding their entire net worth to this man and moving to a little place in South America, and then talked them into the ultimate insult with words. Talked them into committing suicide with words. Churchill, on the other hand, ruled a society with words. Brought us through a major world war, a major crisis. Churchill had only one failing that I know of. He liked to hit the bottle a little bit too much. Churchill got drunk one afternoon, and Lady Astor was telling him, he says, "Winston, you are incredibly drunk." To which Churchill responded, and Lady Astor, "You are ugly. Tomorrow I shall be sober." Those Churchill stories kill me. Every time Churchill would come into office, he would denationalize everything. He was a conservative. He was a little on the right side of Genghis Khan. And every time old Clement Attlee would come into office, he would nationalize everything. Old Clement Attlee was standing in the bathroom one day, and Churchill walked in there. Clement was standing down there toward the end of the urinal, and Churchill walked in. He walked all the way past Clement, all the way down to the other end, kind of stood down there by himself. And Clement Attlee loved to rub it in. "Bit standoffish today, are we, Winnie?" Hated to be called Winnie. "Bit standoffish today, are we, Winnie?" And Churchill said, "The trouble with you, Clement Attlee, is every time you see something big, you want to nationalize it." Oh, Lordy, they get worse, folks. We rule men with words. See, folks, telling the truth doesn't mean telling everything that you know. You got to learn to shut up and listen at some point in the process. Conversation is our advertisement. Do you realize you use 31,500 words a day with gust up to 40,000? Let's choose these words wisely. That's why I really do appreciate when I see someone who can articulate, who can get the word over. But more important than that, I know that if I just come and speak to you here today, I'm lucky if you retain 10% of what I have to say. But if you can see it and hear it, your attention level, the shrinks tell me, is up to 60%. Just because you can see it and hear it. You take that heavy handout over there, you take that sucker home, and if you'll read it just one time, that's all, one time, I'll have your attention up to 85%. Now, if you'll avail yourself to this videotape that's being made available through your association, and if you'll watch that thing 17 of the next 21 days, I'll have y'all giving a speech in 30 days. Why take the most valuable asset that you have, which is not the money that you spent to get here, it was the time that you took out of your busy schedule to get here. Why take that most valuable asset and waste it by not using this spaced repetition process of learning where we listen over and over and over again to the same thing? See, J.C. Penney put it this way. He said that the modern American gains 90% of his information just from listening. Now, the fact that we only retain 25% of what we hear indicates that listening is an undeveloped skill. It's something that we have to work hard at. We have to overcome the problems associated with it. Jitty put it like this. He said, if you don't speak, it's virtually impossible to sound dumb. And when you're up to your nose, then it'd be wise for you not to open your mouth, too. Let me give you 10 things that keep us from being better listeners, and run through this list rather quickly. It's in your handout. Number one on our list, we don't understand. We legitimately don't understand what the other person's trying to say to us. Number two, we understand, but we don't listen. We pay them lip service. They say one thing, we mean another. Number three, ambiguous statements where they say one thing and in fact mean another. Guy calls me up and says he wants to buy a term. He doesn't know. He thinks he really wanted 20-pay life, but he calls you up and he says he wants to buy a term. You know, term of time, 20 years. He doesn't know what it is. That's an ambiguous statement. Number four, we listen 4 times faster than a speaker can possibly talk. I'm chugging along at about 175 to 225 words a minute right now. Your mind is moving along at a pace of about 600 to 800 words a minute. If I could dispense the words quickly enough, you could take them in, screen out what you don't want, send it back, and then take the rest in. If I could dispense them quick enough. Number 5 on our list, too tired to listen. Now, I know I misspelled the second "two" there. I was in the half of the class that made the top half possible. Now, folks, you can't hoot with the owls all night and fly with the eagles the next day. That ain't gonna work. And some of y'all hooted with the owls last night. A few eyeballs out there look like a Texas road map. Number 6 on our list, red flag words, never and dumb and stupid, and words that turn people off. Number 7, anger, excitement, emotions. Number 8, Nervous habits of the speaker, uhs and you knows. Quick show of hands, or by applause, please. How many of you in the room have ever heard of the organization Toastmasters International? Applaud. Every person in this room ought to be a member of that group. They force you to get up on your feet. They force you to speak. They got this thing called Table Topics. Table Topics is that part of the program where you stand up and you speak extemporaneously for a period of 1 to 2 minutes on a subject, Vince, that they give you right then and there. He said, here's the subject. Stand up and talk on it. That's tough stuff. I never will forget the first program I ever attended. A friend of mine, Carl Donnelly, was the Table Topics master for the day. He handed me the envelope. I tore it open. There, written on the card inside the envelope, was the word I had to speak on. Y'all never guess what it was. Sex. I stood up. I gave one of the most interesting, one of the most informative, one of the most knowledgeable speeches on sex. I kept it clean. That day I won the Table Topics Championship. I went home that evening. My wife greeted me at the door. She said, what was Toastmasters about today? I wasn't about to tell her. Well, what'd you talk about? I mumbled something about tabletop. She said, what'd you speak on? I thought to myself, this is going to go on all night. I'll just change the subject. I said, I spoke on aviation, flying small airplanes. Well, she thought no more about it till several days later. She's downtown. She bumps into Carl Donnelly. He goes running up to her. Christine, you wouldn't believe the job old Bashful Mike did on that table topic. Oh, I thought about it for a moment. She said, it's one subject he don't know a thing about. Said, to my knowledge, he's only tried it twice in his entire life. Once before we were married and once after we were married. Said, first time give him a headache, second time blew his hat off. Join the Toastmasters Club, folks. Number 9 on our list are interruptions. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to contend with interruptions. I'm not going to contend with that phone ringing or the baby screaming or whatever. I'm just not going to contend with it. I'll fold the tent and come back another day before I let that happen. And number 10 are distractions. A beautiful view can be a distraction. Find out what is your problem that is keeping you from being a better listener. It's in your handout. Take it and study it. Here's an idea Yiddi gave me. He said, Hayati, listen to the criticism of others, but don't support them. He'd say to me, there's no such thing as constructive criticism. Most criticism is destructive. And here's the reason why. More often than not, the person doing the criticizing is criticizing the performer, not the performance. There's something inherently wrong with that. We don't reserve the right to judge anyone's values. Let me illustrate. My little twins were in the first grade 4 years ago. The teachers in their wisdom decided to separate these little guys, put one in one group, one in the other. One teacher was a very positive teacher. The other one, I won't say she was negative, she just wasn't real positive. She'd write home, dear parent, see that your child does this, this, and this week, sign the teacher. No love, no concern, no care. The other teacher would write home, never to the parent, always, always to the child. Dear pumpkins. I like it already. This week we're going to work on this task and this task and this task. It's tough, but you're smart. I've seen your work. I know that you can do it. Love, Mrs. Casey. Both teachers conveyed fundamentally the same information. One did it with love, one with concern, one with care, the other one no love, no concern, no care. Which teacher would you rather have? Which manager would you rather have? Which manager should you be? Listen to the criticism of others, but don't support. Let me illustrate again. I'm in the bank the other day. I'm standing behind a young lady. She's got a little boy with her. His name was Henry. How did I know his name was Henry? She called it down 15 times in the course of the Henry, get in line. Henry, straighten up. Henry, if you don't straighten up, I'm going to spank you. Henry, if you don't straighten up, I'm going to give you to that man. Gang, I didn't want him. Didn't want him. But I'd have taken him for what she told little Henry next. She said, Henry, if you don't straighten up, you're going to end up in jail one day. Would it surprise any of you to read about little Henry in 15 years? See, folks, if we stick enough garbage in, we'll get a little garbage back along the way. Let's check out these value systems. It takes no skill to criticize. The skill is to not to. The skill is to find something good to say. I've been in 18 countries. I ain't seen a statue to a critic yet. They ain't going to build one either, folks. They don't build them to those people. Quit masturbating. And stop shoulding yourselves. I must do this, I must do that. You should do this, you should do that. Stop. Those are value judging statements. We don't reserve the right to judge anyone's values. We don't reserve that privilege, as my friend Leo Biscaglia puts it. Stop masturbating, quit shoulding you. I blew that one, didn't I? Stop masturbating, quit shooting yourselves. Those are value judging statements. See, when you dig a hole for someone else, be careful. You might fall in it yourself one day. And remember this, he who throws nails along the road, remember not to walk barefoot. Let's watch those value judging statements. Here's an idea Yiddi gave me years ago. He said, Hayati, find out what the poor people are doing, then don't do it. Well, what do you mean by that, Jay? Well, find out what the successful folks are up to, then emulate their good habits. That's why what you come to here is so important. You get to fly with eagles while you're here. You get to be around the best in your profession. Don't ever apologize for making the investment to come to one of these conferences. Because you see, what you come away from this conference is the ability to go back and do what you do better. And it happens that in our system, in this capitalistic society, the way we keep score is by the money you earn. You do a good job, you earn a lot of money. You don't do a good job, you don't earn any money, period. Now, I've learned that money isn't everything, but it does tend to keep the children in touch. Now, every now and then again, my gang gets on my case. Dad, why can't you be home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon like all the other dads in the neighborhood? Your kids ever do that to you? All the other dads in the neighborhood, sitting there looking like, got that mean look on there, looking like been weaned on a pickle. All the other dads. When they do that, I take them down to the worst part of town, pull up in front of the worst looking house you've ever seen, roof caved in, shutters falling off, weeds growing up through the porch. I pull up in front of this house, I tell them I can be home at 5 o'clock every afternoon. We gonna live here. Now, every now and then, I'll be driving down the road, minding my own business. Corey, one of my twins, he'll take a look at that house. He'll say, Dad, don't you have to be somewhere tonight? They understand, folks. They understand. I promise you, they understand. We've got a price to pay in this business. Don't ever apologize. See, I've learned it ain't money that ain't every money. It's not that money makes everything so good. It's that no money makes everything so bad. A friend of mine, Jim Valvano, put it this way. He said, you know something, Mike, I learned that the key to success is not that you have to work hard to be successful. He said, that's not the formula. Here's the formula. If you don't work hard, you can't be successful. It's not an option. It's a requirement. If you don't work hard, you can't be successful. I was asking his advice one time. I said, Jim, I've got a secretary who constantly is asking for this. She's always wanting more and more. He says, I had an employee that asked for a bunch of things one time. Asked about a dental plan before he even hired the guy. I want to know about a dental plan. He says, here's the dental plan. You don't work, I bash your teeth in. Dental plan. Are you the eagle or are you the buzzard? You know, if you hold these two birds up, from a distance they look alike. The eagle and the buzzard, both of them, their wingspan is just about the same. From a distance they look alike. The eagle's got a straight neck. The buzzard's got a little bit of a crook in its neck. But you and I know that's not really the principal difference between those two birds. No, though, the eagle kills his own lunch and the buzzard picks at the reins. And which are you? Are you the leader or are you the follower? These two buzzards were sitting on the side of the road one day talking to one another. One buzzard said to the other, patience, hell, I'm going to kill me something. You know, we were right over there in West Germany 2 years ago, weren't we? When Mr. Reagan decided to pay a visit to Mr. Gaddafi. We were right there in Germany when the United States of America bombed Libya. And I listened as 80% of the European world put the United States of America down. They put us down for bombing Libya. I'm not here to debate the merits or the detriment of bombing Libya. I am here simply to tell you that the price of that decision must have been loneliness for Mr. Reagan. We flew on to England after that. And I listened to 75% of the English people criticize Mrs. Thatcher for allowing the United States of America to fly from her shores. And they praised the wimpy French, a bunch of wimps. Y'all know what a wimp is? My kid told me what a wimp is. Guy who gets out of the shower to go to the bathroom. My 9-year-old told me that. That's a pretty good line, don't you? Praising these people. Come on now, I ain't got all day, folks. They were praising these people. They were praising these people for exercising restraint. They're a bunch of chickens is what they were. But then it occurred to me that you can't be concerned with what they think about you. Mrs. Thatcher didn't take a poll to find out what they thought about it before she made her decision. You can't be concerned. See, the speed of the leader, folks, is the speed of the pack. Y'all ever notice that the lead dog has the best view? He gets a change of scenery out of the whole group. Now, great leaders have this capacity. They have the ability to love others more than they love themselves. I married a great leader. The woman I married could be great at whatever she would choose to do in this life. She could be a great doctor, lawyer. I don't know about a lawyer. Y'all know the difference between a dead lawyer in the middle of the road and a dead skunk? Sometimes there's skid marks in front of the skunk. Y'all ever notice that a lawyer... Come on now, I ain't got all day here. A lawyer will never say in 10 words what he can say in 100. They keep yap, 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 yap. You know, this lawyer died and went to heaven. By the way, that ain't the punchline. St. Peter greeted him at the pearly gate and said, "Sir, we're pleased, proud, privileged, and honored to have you in here. We've never had a 125-year-old lawyer in here before." Lawyer said, "I ain't 125. I was 37 when that truck hit me." St. Peter said, "There must be some mistake. According to the hours that you build." Can y'all stand another lawyer joke? These 3 lawyers died and went to heaven. St. Peter's at the pearly gates and grieved and said, "Sir," looked at the person and said, "Sir, you can't come in here now. You're nothing but a boozer. All you have done all your life, drink, drink, drink. I noticed that your wife's name is Jenny." Looked at the second lawyer and says, "You can't come in here. You're nothing but a stingy old miser. All you've ever cared about all your life is money, money, money. I noticed that your wife's name is Penny." Hearing this, the third lawyer looked at his wife and said, "Come on, Fanny, they ain't going to let us in here either." Let me give you 5 ways to become better leaders, better at what you do. Number 1, be a good example, folks. Adopt the philosophy, be what you see in me. Don't expect your client to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself. And I hope that you got a lot of this stuff, because if you don't, you'll never be able to sell a lot. See, folks, if you plant peas, you get peas. You don't get apples, you don't get oranges, you get peas. You get back out of any situation pretty much what you put into it. Number 2, show them what to do and how to do it. We have this tremendous misconception in this country that people were born with all the information they're ever going to need to succeed. They weren't born with anything. They could have been communist, capitalist, or any other kind of ist. They weren't born into anything. We have got to protect and stand up and defend this free enterprise system, because it allows you to be anything that you want to be in this country. I got the proof. You want the proof? Here's the proof. Even the people who don't like it won't leave it. There's the proof. How many of you did you read about anybody that got shot in the back crawling over the wall back into Berlin this year? How many drowned swimming back to Cuba? Did y'all read about it? How many scratched their back on the barbed wire crawling back into Mexico? See, they don't get shot, scratched, or drowned going in that direction. 98% of the people in this world would trade places with you today, given the opportunity. You get on your knees and you thank your Maker that we've got the right to be anything that we want to be, including a bum, and we'll pay you for it. Got the best welfare system in the world. Meet the needs of the people. When the people say to you, when they say with their actions, and they wear these huge billboards, the billboards say, "Love me," they want affection, so give them some affection. When they say with the action, "Notice me," they want attention, pay attention to them. When they say with the action, "Recognize me," they want appreciation, show them some appreciation. By a show of applause, I want to hear this. How many of you in the room took the time this year to write your bosses a thank you note? I'm impressed. None of us take the time to do that. None of us take the time. I don't have any problems. I've learned to thank people. I don't have any problems with the home office, Joe. You never heard single problem number 1 with me and the people up there, because I'm constantly thanking them, sending them flowers. My wife thinks I'm running around with one of them up there named Lynn. I don't have any problems, because I prop them up and I tell them how important they are to me, and I will send them notes from time to time, and I carbon copy their bosses. I want their bosses to know how good a job they're doing. When I got on the airplane to come out here, I thanked the stewardess on the way into the airplane for the wonderful service that I was about to receive. And I said, "I want the name and the address of the guy who's your boss, because I want to write to him and tell him how wonderful you were to me." Now, folks, did I have any problems getting to San Antonio? Were they nice to me? No problem. You thank God for your food before you eat it, don't you? I thank the stewardess. I've even learned to like airline food that's that bad. Let me give you the 4 keys to a successful thank you note. 1,000 pats on the back is what it's worth. Number 1, make it quick. Don't bother to thank somebody 6 months later for something they did for you 6 months ago. Number 2, keep it short. It doesn't have to be a dissertation. Number 3, be specific. Let them know why you're thanking them. Number 4, write it personally. There's a key to it. That's all you got to do. 4 little simple steps. I hope you take the time to... When I got here this week, I opened my luggage. There's a thank you note in there from my wife. "Dear sweetie, hope you do a good job this week. Good luck. Love, Christine." I overmarried. Well, what can I say? I mean, I feel no guilt or remorse by it either, I want you to know, and I'm handling it very nicely, I think. But she's that type of person. She's constantly and she doesn't have to write me a thank you note to tell me how important I am to her. She doesn't have to thank me constantly for what we do for her. She doesn't have to remind me to be faithful. Those notes serve all kinds of purposes, folks. But they do. Number 4, D on our list, is include me. They won't accept it, so include them. Make them part of your circle. E is believe me. They want to accomplish. Believe in them. Number 4, if you expect a lot from your people, you get a lot. You expect a little, you get a little. And by the way, you got to inspect what you expect. I don't have problems with people replacing business. I just don't have the problem with it because I constantly inspect what I expect from those people. And that's the key to it. Number 5, believe in them and they'll be more likely to believe in you. I hope that you have faith in them, and I hope that you do take the time to believe in the people of which you are a part. They told me to come and motivate you. I've learned 3 things about motivation. I've learned, first of all, you can't motivate anyone. Motivation is an internal thing. The lady who was on the panel yesterday made that point to you. It's an internal thing. She says she gets her motivation from within. It is. See, motivation is just like a light bulb. It's an internal thing, and a change comes from the inside out, not from the outside in. It's just like this light here. The power source for that light is inside the bulb. It's not on the outside. I can't show up and bless you and suddenly you're motivated. It won't work that way. The second thing I've learned about motivation is that all people are motivated. Wait a minute, Mike. You just said you can't motivate people. Now you're saying everybody's motivated. Make up your mind. Which one is it? Oh, yeah, they're motivated. The people who aren't here at this meeting were more motivated to be somewhere else than they were to be at this meeting. They were negatively motivated, but they were nonetheless motivated. The third thing I've learned about people is that they do things for their reasons, not for yours. You got to figure out what their reasons are. My kids, I finally figured out what motivates them. This stuff. They love it. See, I don't give allowances in my house. You make your bed, you get $1. You don't make the bed, you don't get the $1. I keep the $1. Fits in my pocket, goes with everything I wear. They have had checking accounts since they were 6 years of age. I got them on commission. You pet the dog, you get $1. You don't pet the dog, you don't get It costs them over $100 per month to live in our home. By the time they pay their insurance, set aside some money for their college, and give a little bit to God, they have over $100 invested in living per month. Now, some months they come in short. I say, Dad, what are we going to do? I've introduced the concept of a loan. Dad, what's a loan? Well, a loan is if you don't have enough money this month, I'll loan you the difference and put it into your checking account, and then you can write the check, and next month you'll pay me back. That's a good idea, Dad, but I'm going to charge you interest. What's interest? I said, well, for every $1 I give you, I'm going to ask that you give me back $1.15. Mafia. See, I'm the Lebanese mafia. They call it the Lafia. I said, Dad, that ain't too fair. Neither is life. Neither is life. They were short 1 month. Ain't been short since. See, they found out what makes the key, and I found out what makes them motivated. And when you find out what makes your clients do business with you, then you will be able to understand why they are doing business with you. See, motivation without education, what you're about here today, without application, taking it back, plugging it in, without administration, implementation, and a lot of perspiration leads to frustration. You got to have all of those things for it to work. Answer this for me out loud. Anything worth doing is worth doing well. Wrong. Not according to Jiddy. Jiddy, now those are good answers. Those are the answers I'd have given. But Jiddy said anything worth doing is worth doing badly at first. What he was saying was don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to fall on your face. Don't be afraid to get kicked in the teeth. Don't get good at it. But don't be afraid for it to occasionally occur, because it's going to happen out here in the big leagues, folks. In life, it's going to happen. See, mistakes that you make are your way of expanding your awareness. Mistakes, if you will, are necessary stepping stones to personal growth. Mistakes, if you will, are part of the formula of success that helps us to get back on track. A good friend of mine is a guy by the name of Tom Peters. He wrote the book In Search of Excellence. He speaks to a little company in South Carolina a lot, a little company by the name of Milliken. I got a lot of clients that work for that company. And I had the opportunity to be in Milliken with him, to hear him. You know what his latest formula is, the key, according to Tom Peters, what we're going to have to start doing more and more of? We got to start teaching people to fail faster. Then we'll be able to get them. Because see, failure is part of the process. It's part of the formula by which we succeed. I've learned this. I've learned that winning is never final and losing is never fatal. I won the World Championship of Public Speaking in 1978 in a place called Vancouver, British Columbia, for Toastmasters. In 1977, I lost that same championship because I went 8 seconds over my allotted time limit and was disqualified. Now, when you do something dumb like that, first thing you do is you have a pity party. Quick show of hands, how many of you know what a pity party is? You've been there. Pity party is where you sit around your little pity pot and you feel sorry for yourself, right? Here I was sitting in the Toronto International Airport on my pity pot, my suitcase, feeling sorry for myself as my plane taxied off without me. Folks, it was then that I realized if I was going to win that thing, it didn't going to happen that year. Hurley didn't tell you about how I lost that race, did he? He didn't tell you about how I lost a race for the House of Representatives back in South Carolina years ago. Got my clock cleaned so bad, old boy came up to me after and said, if I didn't have more friends than that, I'd carry a gun if I was you. Told him I do. Now, I don't belong to any organized political party. I'm a Democrat. Now, I can assure you folks, they ain't very organized. Y'all seen that group of Looney Tunes coming through there lately? Now, this is what you do with all your old signs. You make shells out of them suckers and you stick them in your garage to remind you never to run again. See, I found it's cheaper to buy a politician than it is to be one. I don't want to read about that next week in the paper. I'm just kidding. See, folks, we're talking about goals and planning here. You can't spell success without the key letter U. I can't do it for you. Your husbands, your wives can't do it for you. It's up to you. Each and every one of you have got to write out your own goals and your own objectives. You can't teach a duck to chase mice, and you can't teach some folks to plan, according to my granddaddy. He said some folks ain't going to plan in spite of how hard you try to teach them. And see, people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. I know you've heard that expression, but may I dare to suggest to you that the reason why most people don't make a lot of money is because they don't plan to. They have no idea why they're even in business. They don't even have a plan, a goal statement, or a mission statement. They don't know what it is that they want out of life. And plan without action is futile, and action without plan is fatal. It's just a matter of time. They don't know they're failing, but it's just a matter of time before they're out of business. Cicero put it like this. He said, to know thyself. I hope that you've taken the time to study who you are. I hope that you've taken an inventory of what your strengths are. You've got to know who you are. You've got to know what it is that you want to accomplish in this life. You've got to know exactly what your objectives are. The only way to know what they are is to write them down. I'm a firm believer in a written contract. I deal with contracts every day of my life. So do you. Make a contract with yourself. Write it out. And when you put it in writing, all you got to do is ask these questions. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Know when you're going to get there. You'd no more write up a contract and wouldn't have a date on it. It's not a contract unless it's got a date. Know where you're going. You'd no more leave here today and try to go to South Carolina or to Los Angeles without a road map. Why do you want to go through the rest of your lives without a road map? May I dare to suggest to you that many of you in this room spent more time planning for this meeting in beautiful, lovely San Antonio than you did planning for this year's business. May I dare to suggest you spend more time planning your vacation than you do planning your future? We can't leave our lives to fate. Maybe you want to do that, but I don't. Know where you're going. Know how you're going to get there. You got to have a game plan. And finally, know why. I hope your reason to be is bigger than the process itself. I hope that you know why you're in this business, and it's not about making money, it's about helping people. See, you will be that which you tend to think you be. There's the key. How you vision or image yourself. There are basically 4 reasons why we don't reach our goals. Number 1, we've been told about them, but we hadn't been sold about them. I'm here to tell you about how to do a goal today. Who, what, when, where, why, how. Put it in 250 words, put it in writing, answer those questions, and you got your goal. Number 2, we've been shown how, haven't been shown how to set goals. I just gave you the answer. Who, what, when, where, why, how. Number 3, we're afraid we might fail. You know what, though, leads the list? Number 4, we're afraid we might succeed. That's the main reason why we won't set goals. We're afraid we're going to hit them. I love that Wendy's ad on television. Do you want this big, juicy Wendy's hamburger or this piece of junk? Guy says, I'll take the piece of junk. Why? This big, you could have this big, juicy, I'll take the piece of junk. But this big, juicy, I'll take the piece of junk. Why? I don't deserve the big, juicy Wendy's hamburger. Isn't it the truth? Most of us go through our lives saying, I don't want to reach the top because I don't deserve it. They asked John F. Kennedy when he ran for president back in 1959, they said, Senator Kennedy, if we today, at this very moment, guaranteed you the vice presidency, if we said you would have no problem, it's yours, would you accept? I never will forget what Kennedy said. He said, why should I accept the vice presidency when the presidency is available? Why should I accept number 2 when number 1 is available? Are you being the best that you can be? That's the key. See, successful people will do what unsuccessful people won't do. Successful people will do the things that unsuccessful people won't do. Number one, they set goals for themselves. Number two, they pursue a course of continuing education. They turn their driving time into learning time. They read every opportunity they can. They gather all the data they can about something before they make decisions on dealing with it. Number three, try to conceptualize. Try something new. Try to conceptualize or recognize that you've got to deal with change. That change is very much a part of your life. We've seen more change in our industry in the past 10 years than it saw in the previous 200 years combined. Change is a key. And number four, they're honest. That used to not even be on the list. Honesty is now the most important thing on the list. It leaves all the other factors combined, and they've got to have that. Shoot for the stars, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm trying to say to you. See, you can eat a rhino if you'll do it one bite at a time. One step at a time. That's how you get to the top. Are you living life on purpose, or are you living life with a purpose? Do you subscribe to the flat earth theory? Or do you think there's something more out there than just a flat earth? How tight is the lid on your container? My friend Zig Ziglar puts it this way. He tells a story about the fleas. He put the fleas in a jar, put the lid on the top of it. Fleas would jump up, they'd hit the heads on the jar. They conditioned themselves to only jump so high. They took the lid off to see what the fleas would do. Fleas only jumped so high, didn't jump out of the jar. They had conditioned themselves to only jump so high. How tight is the lid on your container? The elephants at the circus, you see these big, huge elephants tied to this little tiny stake. When they were little baby elephants, they tied it to a big, huge stake, and he'd pull and he'd pull and he couldn't pull it out. He conditioned himself not to pull it out. And now, you go to any circus anywhere in the country, there's a little tiny twig holding this huge elephant that could literally knock this wall down, holding this little big old elephant right in place, because he had conditioned himself only to do so much. What kind of conditions have you placed on yourselves? What kind of conditions have you placed on your life? What are your achievement regulators? How high do you plan to jump this year? See, a stream can rise no higher than its source. I hope your source is a little bit bigger and a little bit better than you are. See, my friends, talent is God's gift to you. But what you do with talent is your gift to God. And you owe your Maker a little bit more rent on the space you occupy on this earth. Study it. See, first we form habits, then habits form us. My kids don't understand it. Dad, you don't love us. You won't do our homework for us. They ever do that to you? You know what the irony of it is? I don't do their homework for them because I do love them and because I can't do it. Have y'all seen that stuff? Terrible. See, folks, you can bloom where you're planted, and get this. When you're green, you grow, and when you're ripe, you rot. I hope you're constantly growing. I hope you're constantly recruiting. I hope you're constantly doing the things necessary to succeed in this business. If you don't, you won't. See, winners see what they want, and losers see what they want to avoid. Winners seek magnificence. Losers seek mediocrity. Winners see high honors, and losers, they see high hurdles. Winners, they have morals, and losers have methods and ways of getting around things. Winners have dreams, and losers, they have schemes. They have methods. Winners, if you will, see possibilities. Losers, they see problems. Winners, they seek excellence, which is what this conference has been about. And losers seek excuses. They want to get by. Winners seek success. Losers seek safety. Winners, they'll take a risk. Losers take and run. They're afraid to face the challenge. Winners see medals and losers see mistakes. Winners, my friends, are what I hope that you are. Are you a winner? Are you being the best that you can be? I remember it was the bottom of the 6th inning, the last inning of Little League Baseball. It's interesting. Max Meatheads. I played for my grandfather's meat market there in Lexington. Max Cash and Carry grocery store. We were the Max Meatheads. Well, what else are you going to name a meat market? Come on, let's be fair. We're playing the Harmon's Pill Rollers. There I am in the middle, got ugly early. We're playing the Harmon's Pill Rollers in the World Series of Lexington. The bases were loaded, bottom of the last inning. The score was tied 2-2. Bases were loaded, there were 2 outs. I'm the batter, and I'm praying for a walk. Hit me with the pitch. I don't care what it takes, Lord. I'll take anything that you got, anything to get that guy home from third. Well, Jiddy's down there on third base coaching. He hollered down to me, "Hayete!" I walked down there with that loser's limp. That's when you limp in advance in anticipation of screwing up. Y'all have had some loser's limps before. I got down there, he put his arm around me, said, "Hayete, 100% of the swings you don't take won't go for home runs." Folks, I looked at him like he didn't have all the shingles on his roof. I ain't swinging at anything. I'm going up there to walk. Well, I went back down there and got back into the batter's box. That first pitch, old Grover Ray Revels is out there on the mound. Y'all ever notice all these old boys down south got four names? Grover Ray Alexander Revels. Call him Bubba for short. Old Bubba Revels is out there on the mound, about half again bigger than most of us. He reared back. When he threw that first pitch by me, folks, it looked like a piece of rice. Strike one. Second pitch, strike two. I got 2 strikes on me and the bat ain't budged. I stepped out and I thought about 100% of swings you don't take don't go. Step back in there, you'd have been proud of me, Joe. I fouled the next 3 off. That fourth one, I don't know what y'all call them up there in Boston, but where I come from, we call them Texas League singles. Actually, if the shortstop hadn't run smack dab into the third baseman, them two collapsed right there in the infield. My ball squibbed through the infield. I got my hit. Next day showed up as line drive in a newspaper. It has since bounced off the wall as I currently relate that story to my children. I suspect one day it'll be a home run. You never know. Y'all ever notice that the further you get away from the event, the more you tend to glamorize the event? I got my hit. We won the game. My point is this. 100% of the swings you don't take won't go for hits. 100% of the risks that you don't take won't produce success. 100% of the investments that you don't make will end up in failure. 100% of the books that you don't read will deny you that knowledge forever. 100% of the opportunities that you bypass will bypass you forever. See, folks, the road to success, it's always under construction. We never get there. We never get educated. We never finally get to the point where it's over and we don't have to work any harder anymore. The trouble with the future is it ain't what it used to be. That's what life is about. That's what I'm trying to tell you that this is about today. We can't depend on today with the knowledge that we had from yesterday. And it takes something else that I've tried to tell you about today indirectly. It takes something called commitment. When I think of commitment, I think of a story about a young crippled black child. A little girl by the name of Wilma Rudolph. She was born premature, 4.5 pounds, on a ghetto farm in the backwoods of Tennessee. At the age of 4, she was stricken with double pneumonia, with scarlet fever. And this deadly combination left her with a paralyzed and useless left leg. Doctors told her mother this child would never walk. Her mother's only response was a line from a favorite hymn. She said that Wilma could climb her highest mountain if she'd only take one step at a time. That first step was a very painfully massaged step. They had to teach her to walk with a steel brace. That took 5 torturous years. But on her 9th birthday, doctors were amazed to see her take a step without the steel brace. The next 5 years were spent developing that step into a smooth, rhythmic stride. On her 13th birthday, 3 things happened to Wilma. First, she entered a Tennessee high school. Second, she joined the track team. Third, she assumed the nickname Limpy Rudolph because, you see, she limped into last place in every single event. But after each bitter loss, she'd shout above the laughter of her teammates, "I'll never give up. I promise you, I'll never give up." One day she came in next to last in a race. Another day she finished 3rd from last. One day she finished 2nd from 1st. And one day she won herself a race. And now, with a feel of victory in her blood, she began to run with a wild determination, with a reckless abandon, until one day she won every single race that she entered in the entire meet. That day she won herself a new nickname, Lightning Rudolph. Lightning came to the attention of Coach Ed Temple at Tennessee State University. He said, "Wilma, come to my school." Wilma said, "If running will get me an education, Coach, not only will I come to your school, but I'll run harder, I'll run faster than I've ever run in my entire life. I promise you I'll never give up." Now, away at school, things were about to change for Wilma. No longer could she depend upon the motivation of her mother. Her mother was dead. Motivation had to come from within. But you see, Wilma did have the ability to motivate herself, because in 1960, Coach Ed Temple picked her to represent the United States of America in the International Olympics in Rome. Those who were in the stadium that year thought that Wilma looked a little bit lonely. She was an unknown black athlete. Something was obviously wrong with her left leg. She walked with a limp. Many were asking the question aloud, what's she doing here? What's the United States trying to prove? It took them exactly 11 seconds to get the answer to that question. Because when that starting pistol cracked, she tore up that cinder path in a world record 11 seconds. Snapped the tape and captured her first gold medal in the 100-meter dash. Her second race was the 200-meter dash. Everyone knew that Germany's Jetta Heine would win this one. She held the world's record. Why would anyone even dare to challenge that great German Jetta Heine? No one but Wilma. Again, the starting pistol cracked. Wilma and Jetta jumped to the lead. They turned the race into a fighting duel, knees pumping high, elbows pumping hard, with a burst of speed on the backstretch. Wilma pushed out to the lead, snapped the tape, and captured her first gold medal. Several days later, Wilma would be competing again against a revenge-seeking Jetta Heine. The race was the 400-meter relay. Once again, everyone knew the Germans would win this when they held the world's record. Why would anyone even dare to challenge those great Germans? No one but the Americans. Again, the starting pistol cracked. The Germans and the Americans jumped to the lead, and they turned the race into a fighting duel, knees pumping high, elbows pumping hard, with a burst of speed on the backstretch. Wilma pushed out to the lead, snapped the tape, captured her second gold medal. Several days later, Wilma would be competing again against a revenge-seeking Jetta Heine. The race was the 400-meter relay. Once again, everyone knew the Germans would win this when they held the world's record. Why would anyone even dare to challenge those great Germans? No one but the Americans. Again, the starting pistol cracked. The Germans and the Americans jumped to the lead. They turned the race into a fighting duel, knees pumping high, elbows pumping hard. First runners handed the batons to the second, second to the third. When the third runners handed the batons to Wilma and to Jetta, Wilma dropped hers, and the great German Jetta Heine raced all alone for what appeared to be a sure victory to the finish line. No one knows what happened in that next instant. All I can think for a fleeting moment, Wilma looked beyond that cinder path, beyond the walls of that stadium, and sent out a cry to her dead mother back home in Tennessee. And the still small voice came back. Never give up, never give up, never, never, never give up. We don't know if that really happened. We do know what Olympic records tell us did happen. Wilma was hopelessly behind. Less than 10 seconds to go, less than 100 yards from the finish line, she reached down, she grabbed up the baton in one fist, and in what Olympic records have come to call a miracle today, she pulled up beside the great German Jetta Heine. The two raced neck and neck, stride for the finish line. 75 yards to go, 60 yards to go, 50 yards to go. 100,000 screaming fans on their feet, yelling wildly because they knew they weren't just watching another race. They were witnessing a miracle. And even Jetta Heine fans saw the miracle unfold. Thousands of German voices joined the cry, yelling, "Go, Rudolph, go!" The rest is Olympic history. Slowly, she pushed out to the lead, and with a burst of speed, snapped the tape, and captured her third gold medal. The first American girl in the history of the Olympics ever to have done so. My message to you here today is that each of us here has a steel brace. Every person in this room has something in their lives that they'd like to change, that they might like to make a little bit better. You got to set your sights on a goal. You got to set your sights high, too high. That's how you accomplish your goals in life. You can't be afraid to fail. Everybody's got something they like to change. God gave me these thumbs. Look at those thumbs. Got two of them like that. Looks like he sat on them, doesn't he? What God takes away in certain parts of the body, he puts back in others, though. Which explains his nose. Hey, and I'm the right weight for a guy 6'8". What can I say, you know? There's a lot of things I like to change about me, but may I dare to suggest to you, you got to go with the hand God dealt you. You got to dance with the babe what brung you. You've been a wonderful audience, and I'd like you to stop, look, listen, and enjoy as I share this little final gift of love from me to each of you.
At this point in Mike Alon's program, 35mm slides are being presented in living color on a giant screen. The slides were taken of those in attendance and took most of them by total surprise, as many of the photographs were taken only minutes prior to the showing. The slides serve as a summary of the activities and festivities of the meeting. The presentation of these photographs was in no way intended to take the place of Mike Alon's message, but merely served and was presented as an added gift from the presenter. As you have heard and seen, the keynote address could certainly have stood on its own. However, as you're about to hear, as we shorten for your convenience the musical background for the slides, the evidence of this outstanding program and its reception.
These are my special people. I won't get the opportunity to meet each of you before you get away from here today, but I do hope that through these words and through these pictures, through this love that we've shared with one another, I do hope that we have met. God bless. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.